All right, he's been very clean with his hooks on the feet here tonight, and it's the way he set it up that has really impressed you.
Yeah, it's very impressive to see him pop the jab, pop the right hand, just touch, 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 and then boom, sit down on that hook. He's going to be trying to find it again. You can see him setting up his opponent, trying to get the hands to drop so he can drop that hook over the top.
All right, so the big storyline in this one, his offensive prowess, particularly when it comes to landing those hooks, and I know you like to play Tony Romo. You think he goes back to it here or what?
I am almost certain that he's going to go back to that specific punch because it's landed every time he's thrown it. And as the fight has gone on, it is landing with more force in his opponent. Big strike lands. Now he looks to try to chase down that finish.
Well, at this point, DC, I'm not sure if he's just biding his time or just getting some extra reps, but go finish the guy.
It seems like the guy's playing with his food. You know, he's having a good time out there. Everything's working. He's in the zone. It feels like at any moment he can...
Oh, big shots raining down.
He's brutalizing him with the ground and pound. This fight is close to being done.
Back to his feet. Oh!
Oh, high kick.
Just over 2 minutes to go in the round.
Big body kick lands under the elbow. Oh!
Under 2 minutes to go in a back and forth first round here. All right, so perhaps he's going to have to address something. Oh! That'll do it!
Oh, my goodness!
I mean, you gotta be kidding me. Everybody here inside this arena digesting what they just saw. That is not a TKO, folks. That is a clean knockout result tonight.
I mean, just wow. What a performance by this young man, knocking his opponent out with a single shot like that.
Racially. So why, in other words, why would you say, oh, Indians, come on in, Pakistanis? No, like, and I think what that has to do with, of course, is that it's politically expedient to be anti-Muslim. And I know a lot of Muslims, like when I say that, it's a fact, that it is politically expedient to be anti-Muslim because, you know, America has a strained relationship with some of those countries and because of our alliance with Israel. Israel has a gripe with Muslims. They want us to have a gripe so that, you know, we identify with their struggle and we support them in their fight. I think it's that simple.
I think you're the only one in the right wing that sees the psyop, right? Because Netanyahu said publicly that he was going to invest money into the propaganda.
Yeah.
And it's always the playbook over the last 20 years has always been just call Muslims terrorists.
Yep.
Nonstop. After the Iraq War, after every war that we go to support Israel in the Middle East, they just blame radical Islamists. They did that with Iran as well. And everyone fell for it. Everyone started to say, oh, they're talking about Dearborn, which is a non-issue. It's like, what, 100,000 people in this. They're not really bothering anyone. The crime is pretty low. Everyone immediately started to jump on that bandwagon, even though it doesn't really pose a threat. Even on Rumble, you know, I used to stream on Rumble. You stream on Rumble. I saw ads pop up like the radical jihadists. It's like these AI ads for boomers right next to Black Rifle Coffee. They're talking only about Muslim immigration. So the reason that's happening is that all distraction because Alex Jones seems very annoyed by Muslim immigration. He's been very worried about that. Does that actually pose a threat?
I don't think so, no. And I'll tell you why. It's funny you bring that up because what you would say about Dearborn is that it's an enclave. It's an enclave where it's a smaller town and it's mostly Muslim. You have sort of like a monoculture there. But there are enclaves everywhere, and there's Jewish enclaves.
All over New York, and I don't see anybody talking about that.
Never.
New York City, there's neighborhoods in Borough Park and Crown Heights that are literally, that look like this.
Yes.
Like they all wear their hats, they have their own police, they have their own bus station, they have their own schools, they have their own language. They don't, even though they're in New York City, they don't communicate, you know, and they're told that they only interact with each other. But there's nobody protesting.
No, and it's everywhere too. In New Jersey, no, I never heard any mainstream person talk about this. They're like ultra-Orthodox colonies in New Jersey. I've never seen anyone document it, talk about it. I only know because I know people from New Jersey. And they say, oh, these Hasidic Jews are taking over this whole town. In Surfside, Florida, in Crown Heights, in New York, it's like you said, they have their own ambulances, their own police. They have, it's like an enclave. And so you say, okay, Matt Walsh, so what's the difference between that and Dearborn or Minneapolis or Springfield, Ohio. And I do think there's something cowardly about it because, you know, let's be honest. Like the Haitians in Springfield, I know you're Haitian. You're also Muslim, so, you know, Dearborn or whatever. But it's like, you know, it is the most egregious example, let's say, because Haiti is not doing so hot.
Right.
So it's
Trump's
easy.
in a shithole country. Yeah.
And I get it, but to me, that's almost like punching down. There's something cowardly about it. I did a whole show about it. I'm like, Matt, why don't you talk about all the Jewish names in Hollywood and New York? He's going to name all the Muslim names in Dearborn. Okay, yeah, like, I see your point. Name all the Jewish names in Wall Street.
Well, I saw on Tucker Carlson, he said he doesn't care about Israel.
The Bush administration did everything it possibly could to. The official story of 9/11 is a complete lie. The 9/11 is a joke.
You have the CIA following two men all over the planet, and eventually even to America, right? And you don't tell the FBI.
Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira. I don't have to tell much of this fan base. They know that in kickboxing, Pereira has 2 head-to-head wins over Adesanya. One of them coming via left hook back in Sao Paulo in 2017. Adesanya doesn't want to hear any of that noise tonight.
He does not. And Pereira was able to knock him out in the second fight, but Adesanya had his moment.
Episode here Thursday, 9/11, September 11th. Will not
What
miss
a
it. Join us
beautiful
now.
uppercut. It landed beautifully, perfect placement on that shot.
And this docu-series that's coming up on the Tucker Carlson Network is getting a lot of attention, so much so that Piers Morgan interviewed him today just to ask some questions and to challenge what many believe are simply crazy conspiracy theories
Ooh, that's tight. I'd be tapped.
to what took place on 9/11.
Arm still not out of harm's way yet.
Look at all the pressure on the arm.
But I thought
Oh,
between Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson was fascinating,
Oh my
and
goodness.
we're going to just give you a few highlights. Please watch the entire conversation for yourselves. But before I get into it, Jake, any initial thoughts?
Well, before I never entertained the idea that 9/11 was anything but what the government said. And so I was like, what did they make the planes disappear? They get willing to kill everybody on the planes. It all sounds absurd. So I now think that I have seen the government do so many terrible things repeatedly and cover up for it repeatedly that I am no longer sure. And when you see things like World Trade Center 7, a building across the street, apparently was so hot that the steel inside the building melted from across the street. But the government found Mohammed Atta's paper passport conveniently on top of the rubble.
Yeah, there's
Things that don't make any sense.
yeah.
So I'm not saying I know the answer, but I'm beginning to come to some conclusions about what is not the answer.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at as well, right? I'm not running around saying 9/11 was an inside job. I don't know, but I do know that there are some serious issues with what the, accepted narrative is. And in fact, they're about to get into an exchange in regard to Building 7. So let's go to the first one.
Huge parts of the 9/11 story were left out of the commission report. For example, what happened in Building 7, which was not only not next to the Twin Towers, which are hit by airplanes, but had a building in between itself and those buildings, collapsed that afternoon for reasons that no one has been able to explain since. You're not a lunatic for asking. There is no there's no plausible explanation for how that building collapsed.
So that's the issue at play here. I wanted to give you that portion of what Tucker Carlson had to say.
All eyes are on Alexa
Piers
Grasso.
Morgan
What can this
attempts
young
to
woman
explain it to
produce
some
for an
extent by
encore?
providing
When you
what he
harken back to the
feels
early
is a
days of her UFC
similar
career, she was primarily a boxer, but she
example
always
of
had
another
the
building.
appetite for wrestling and
Just
grappling knowledge.
moving
And
away
Francisco
similarly
Grasso
to
has
Building
put the
7.
entire package
Yeah.
together.
Back to
Diego Jessica Lopez
I just want to
deserves
say,
credit for her
this
submission
story
game.
broke today. I didn't know that that was going to be the
Might
first
find
time.
a sub here tonight.
And for all the times that I had this conversation with
Beautiful
Ben and a
job
million
getting
other
those hands
people,
up.
I would always say, look, guys, I get everything, and I'm not a
As usual
physicist.
from
I don't know
Valentina Shevchenko
where
on.
the plane could hit or couldn't hit, or could touch or couldn't touch. I have no expertise. Just that building that is not anywhere near the other buildings, just melting down. I've never thought that made any sense. And what we should expect from our government is logical answers, not like, whatever, shut up, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you should never get any real answers. So the reason I interrupt you is what Piers Morgan was going to say, because I've literally never heard a proper explanation for it, even when I believe 9/11 100%.
Let's see what he has to say.
If you look into the investigation into Tower 7, the findings of the investigation into it was that the North Tower, when it came down, had cells of aluminum fires in Building 7. It was a steel structure, shouldn't have gone down, but it did, and these fires burned all afternoon. I think it's about 5 o'clock afternoon. The tower eventually gave way to the
Well, she's so
water
confident
fires
in her
raging
defense and her
inside.
ability
And it was
to
the
block
only
shots,
time
and
that had
now you see
happened.
why.
The structure that was built in that way. However, there has been another tower very similar to that structure, which has since gone down in terror. So it's no longer the only
Oh, and there's another combination.
There
She's
is
turning this into a
another
sparring session.
example of a
Just
tower
high
that
volume
collapsed.
and
Okay, so you can see Tucker Carlson smiling in response to what Piers Morgan is saying, probably because, okay, well, if you want to make that argument that the fire was so hot that it led to the collapse of Building 7, well, what happened to the building in between, right? And nothing happened to that building. And so I want to give Tucker an opportunity to respond to that, and then we can discuss.
What is the alternative explanation? You're examining another theory.
Right now is a
The
time
investigation concluded was simply that the North Tower came down, fires were set off in Tower 7, and then she collapsed. What is the other theory which we should keep looking at?
I don't know that the onus is on me or anyone who seeks the truth about what happened to come up with an alternative theory. The onus is on federal authorities to explain why, for example, they never investigated it. Why, for example, the rubble and the steel from that building was carted off within hours and sent out of the country to Asia. Why, for example, an analysis done not by kooks, but by chemists found traces of explosive material in the dust from that day. Why structural engineers who have no skin in this game came to the conclusion that just couldn't happen based on all available evidence, and that none of that is addressed or even mentioned in the 9/11 report. So, and there are all kinds of anomalies, as I know that you're fully aware, and there are possible explanations to explain all of them. For example, the BBC report on air saying the building had fallen when it hadn't fallen yet.
She's right about that BBC report, and Piers later says that the BBC report was based on an erroneous report by Reuters. Okay,
that doesn't explain anything.
It does.
How did Reuters know the building was going to collapse before it got hit?
Exactly. Yeah.
So look, I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. And like, I'm very interested to watch this docu-series and the claims that it makes. I was super young when 9/11 happened. I was in high school, and the thought of this being a big conspiracy was ridiculous to me. It didn't even cross my mind. I was a child. Okay, but revisiting this now, I do have a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, it's over. Look, we're at a seminal moment in American politics and media. Before, there was a whole bucket of things you could not question. The minute you question them, what would happen? Well, what does that mean? You can't question them. You say any backyard barbecue, right? But if you work in politics or media in any way, shape, or form, if you question them, you would immediately be fired. You would be labeled a kook, a conspiracy theorist, and probably some sort of character assassination on top attached to it, or anti-Semite, a racist, a this, a that, whatever it is. But you're dispatched. You're not allowed on air, right? Now, because of digital media, they can't contain it. And now everybody's asking questions, and they're like, fire Tim Dillon. Damn it, we can't fire Tim Dillon. Okay, then fire Joe Rogan. Damn it, we can't fire Joe Rogan. So now people are starting to ask and ask and ask. And so what I'm telling you now is, but you're dispatched. You're not allowed on air, right? Now, because of digital media, they can't contain it. And now everybody's asking questions, and they're like, fire Tim Dillon. Damn it, we can't fire Tim Dillon. Okay, then fire Joe Rogan. damn it, we can't fire Joe Rogan. So now people are starting to ask and ask and ask. And so what I'm telling you now about this seminal moment is we've crossed the Rubicon. You can ask any goddamn thing you like.
Right.
Okay? And if they try to fire you for it, they're the bad guys, not you.
And asking the question doesn't mean that you already think that it's a conspiracy and you're just trying to prove that it's a conspiracy. The questions about Building 7 are legitimate questions. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, early action here, Conor McGregor. You know about the physical gifts. You know how well
that's
he
not anything.
controls and manages
But Building
distance.
7
But
is
from a mental
an issue
standpoint,
that
this
is
is an
nearly
intimidating
impossible. Like the
proposition for a
idea
lot of
that the
fighters.
towers would
Beating a lot of
collapse
guys before they even make the
themselves,
walk
not
off fight
themselves,
night.
after they got
Early
hit,
action here, we'll see how
that the
McGregor
steel
handles
could
it.
burn so much that they could collapse is a very controversial idea within engineering circles, right? But the fact is, but a building across the street with other buildings in between, no, if the steel didn't burn down, no way. That is not the correct answer. So the same thing with JFK. So if you take it from if you ever said anything about JFK, you were told shut up and you get fired, etc. Now I don't know who killed JFK because I don't have the secret files in front of me. I don't know what happened on 9/11. But it's not my job to know. It's my job to ask questions, right? And it's the job of the government to tell us the correct answers. So what I'm telling you now is, on JFK, I'm absolutely positive the government story is not the correct answer. Lee Harvey Oswald didn't shoot him from 3 states away and hit everything else in between, and it's the greatest shot of all time, even though he had nothing to do with JFK. There's tons and tons of people who despise JFK and wanted him killed. They said on the record they wanted him killed. So I don't know which one did it. I do know that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald.
Now he's masterful.
Do the whole games and say, well, the government said it, so you're a conspiracy theorist. You can do that all day long, guys, but it doesn't matter because you lost. Because now you look ridiculous. So now when you turn back to 9/11, no, I don't know the answer, guys. I don't know who did it and why they did it, or maybe it did happen. Just like October 7th, where it's not that Israel did it, but there was a real stand down.
Oh my God.
Why was there a stand down? And that's not me saying, that's IDF soldiers saying there was a stand down. Right at that exact time. We never leaves anything long. So that's not me saying Israel did it, that's me saying that's weird.
That is weird. You need an answer to that.
Yeah, and you need a plausible answer to that. Not trust me, bro, which is what the government's been doing the entire time. And so, and the most big thing on here's so now we're told that conveniently there was a building that melted down in a similar way in Tehran.
He gets close, or at least he expects to get close.
Or is that some intelligence we got from a trusted outlet and just trust us? That building went down just like World Trade Center 7 did. Yeah. Maybe not.
Should we play a few more songs?
Yeah.
Okay, so the topic then switched to whether anyone may have known that this terror attack was going to happen, but withheld that information or that intel from the American people and the American government. Anyway, let's get to that clip.
Is it cocked up, or do you think there is merit? The suggestion that some people
All right, so now we start to see some bruising appearing on the torso, and all of that courtesy of the body work of his opponent.
Well, we know that people did know more than we've been told. I mean, somebody shorted the airlines and a bunch of the banks that were affected. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory, it's not a guess. This is publicly available information. Now, the FBI found out the identity of the person or institution that shorted these events on 9/11 and made a huge amount of money by doing that, but never released that information. So why can't we know who clearly had foreknowledge? I mean, if you're shorting American Airlines a week before 9/11, when no one knows it's coming, I think you should have to explain why you did that. And if you're shorting Barclays and banks that were affected by 9/11, why can't we know who you are? These are public markets, by the way. This is not private equity. This is publicly traded equities.
That's fascinating. I mean, there could be an explanation for why that individual decided to short American Airlines. It could have been a crazy coincidence.
Yeah. So, look, again, the problem isn't the answer. The problem is that we weren't allowed to ask before. Right? So, for example, is it possible that somebody had a different hunch based on a completely different thing, and they shorted American, and they got, quote-unquote, lucky, right? In that sense. Now, you could say that with rolling your eyes off, what a coincidence. But it might be. might be, right? It depends on the scale of it. It depends on who it is. Is it Randall Moss from Nebraska? Well, how would he know, right? But if it's somebody from the intelligence community, that's a different thing, right? If it's a senator, that's a different thing, right? So why aren't the American people allowed to know? I mean, you don't even have to give me the brother's name, whether it was the guy who shorted Barclays or the company that did, or American or whatever. Just like, can we find out what category they were in? Were they a farmer? Were they a banker? What were they, right? But for everything, they always tell you the same thing. Shut up. Otherwise, we'll ruin you. We'll assassinate your character and say you're a conspiracy theorist. And you'll never work again. That reaction makes me think, wait, maybe this is worse than I thought. Because why have one weird reaction for the most normal questions about one of the most important events in American history?
It is one of the most important and most tragic events in American history. It was the largest terror attack on U.S. soil. Okay, thousands of people died, and it served as the catalyst for changing this country forever, and not for the best, I would argue, okay? Violations of Americans' privacies, mass surveillance, the Patriot Act, obviously, foreign wars, it just goes
global war on terrorism that cost us $8 trillion.
Yes.
Happen to take out other people's enemies, not our enemies. Anyways, but one other thing, the Bin Ladens. So why did we fly out the Bin Ladens? No one's ever answered that.
That's a great question.
So that was a question from the left. That was Michael Moore asking that question. What a weird reaction. You're telling me Osama bin Laden did it, and your first reaction was to gather up all the Bin Ladens that apparently lived inside America and fly them out first class to Saudi Arabia.
Why?
And I'm not allowed to ask why? No, that's crazy talk. Guys, this isn't about right or left. This is about our government doesn't represent us, and they keep telling us funny stories that don't make any sense. The minute you ask one question, they try to take your head off.
Yeah.
So you got one more?
One more clip. Let's take a look.
So clearly, yes, there was foreknowledge. By the way, there was a team, this is according to the FBI, by the way, this is the FBI saying, there was a team of clearly intel-connected foreigners who were arrested after 9/11, as you well know, videotaping the terror attacks. This is, I'm almost verbatim quoting from the FBI assessment of this. And the FBI determined that they apparently had foreknowledge of the attacks. So why can't we know more about that? Exactly. Shut up. That's bigoted. No, this is my country. Fia added her down to her flight.
Know if he's referring to the 5 Israelis who a witness had seen taking photos, not recording, but taking photos of the World Trade Center as it was being attacked. One of them was holding a lighter up to the World Trade Center prior to the attack. And I don't know if that's what he's referring to, but those 5 individuals were kept in U.S. custody for over 2 months. The FBI absolutely did believe that at least 2 of them had connections to Mossad, right? The Israeli intelligence organization. And I read the FBI files on this, and the investigation just like abruptly ended after a little over 2 months. John Ashcroft, specifically the Attorney General at the time, called for them to be released and sent back to Israel. And then a few years after that, he served as a consultant who consulted on behalf of Israel.
I mean, it's absurd. Look, on that one, again, that's the one that people get most touchy about, because they assume all sorts of things in your head that aren't in your head. They're like, oh, that must mean that you hate Israel, and you hate Jews, and you hate this. No, hold on, guys. We're not talking about any of that. We're saying, why did they go to document that event? And that's not my words, that's their words. One of them was on Israeli TV afterwards, so when he was shipped back to Israel, and they said, why did you go? And he slipped up. I assume he slipped up. He said, we went to document the event. Which makes you ask, how did you know there was going to be an event?
All right, so that opened up
so then you're not supposed to ask that question, otherwise you're going to get called all sorts of names.
There could even be a legitimate explanation for that, right? Maybe they happened to be in New York City at the time doing other spy operations. The claim was that, or the FBI also believed that there were Israeli nationals or members or agents of Mossad here in the United States spying on Arabs. Okay, that's
on Arabs. Okay, that's what they said.
Maybe they just happen to be in New York City. I don't think that's okay, especially if our government and our intelligence organizations don't know about it. But okay, putting that aside for a second, maybe they saw that there was an attack and they went to this specific area to take more images and whatever of the World Trade Center. I don't know. I don't know what the explanation is. But the point is, these questions are okay to ask, especially when the moving company that these 5 Israelis were working for ended up being a total front. And the owner of that moving company, like, started to get back to Israel once the individuals had been arrested. And by the way, in the moving truck, they found foreign passports, $4,700 in cash, all sorts of like weird, shady, make you wonder, make you ask these appropriate questions. And remember, the 5 got arrested after a witness saw them taking the photos of the World Trade Center and also, like, in her words, like celebrating. They looked happy.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, last thing on this. Again, it doesn't mean that Israel did it, for example. It could be that they knew about it, like on October 7th, but chose not to say anything. It could be that they said something, but we didn't listen to them. Okay? That could also be the case. Right. Remember, there was the famous CIA warning to Bush when he was on his Crawford Ranch. And they said bin Laden determined to attack inside the United States. And Bush said, you covered your ass, now go home, and ignored it. Right. So there could be legitimate things. But if you have a legitimate answer, telling everybody to...
Súbete la falda, me gusta esa blusa. Ma, you know what's up, llega y siempre abusa. Sé que andas en alta, de 2 a 3 la musa. Che, mami, está ahí en el club, baby, muévelo al revés. Cual yo quiero, yo no sé, subí, bájalo otra vez. Que estoy con el crew y nos fumamos 2 o 3. Bailamos la
Apologize after they used Zayn Malik's photo in an ISIS-related article. Now, Zayn Malik was one of the stars from One Direction, right? Yes, the star. Okay, well, the article, they're saying Malik, okay? The article in question was titled, What ISIS Wants, to Destroy the Gray Zone of Coexistence. Now, to give you a sense of what this article was about, there's a tweet where they apologize. We apologize for the original image here. Zayn Malik is mentioned in the story.
You ready to fight? Ready.
The buzz is palpable inside this arena because Conor McGregor is fighting here tonight. The Irish fans are going sick. We'll see if Conor McGregor can get off to his patented fast start. You know he controls distance well. We'll see how McGregor approaches the early going here. Oh, he landed a flying knee to the head. That's a huge shot there, DC. I'm not sure how he stayed upright.
I mean, when you get hit with a shot like that, to stay standing shows and talks to your toughness. Oh my goodness, these boys are going at it.
And back to his feet. Oh, huge left. Oh, that's a big right hand that got through. Massive left hand. Big right hand there. Topuria's knee attempt here looked like a good one, but it gets blocked. Moving to his left now. Well, he's landed a few big uppercuts already. I will bet you $1,000 he sets it up again here.
You're not taking my money.
Oh!
Another one!
Oh! With authority, the body. Oh, a big left hand.
Body shot.
Oh! On the wobbly legs now. Oh, knee strike right to the midsection there. Oh, huge left. And now leather being thrown on both sides.
Big right hand.
Throwing hard in the pocket. Oh, the jab followed by the right hand.
Oh, nice right hand.
vicious combo there. Under 2 minutes. Oh! That's it. That'll do it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was just a gorgeous shot to end the fight right there. I'm not even sure the opponent really saw it coming. So back to the drawing board for him.